At 1:07 on a Thursday morning, my husband called to demand an explanation for why his house had no electricity. There were two problems with that sentence. First, Eric Mercer had spent the previous 3 days insisting that I no longer needed to live there. Second, the house had never been his. I didn't remind him of the second problem that night. Not yet. I simply lay in the narrow bed of my temporary university apartment, listened to him shout about the refrigerator, the Wi-Fi, his mother, his sister, and 2 very unhappy children, and realized something that should have occurred to me years earlier. My family had never appreciated how much I did for them because they had never experienced what happened when I stopped. But I'm getting ahead of myself. 3 days earlier, I had still believed I was married. Not happily, perhaps, but securely. After 8 years, I thought there was a difference. I was 33, a program director at a university in North Carolina, and very good at managing complicated things. Budgets, faculty schedules, grant deadlines, contractors, student programs that I could keep all of them moving without losing sleep. Unfortunately, I had spent most of my marriage using the same skill at home. I paid the property taxes. I handled the homeowner's insurance. I scheduled repairs. I renewed the termite contract. I paid the electric bill, water bill, internet bill, lawn service, cleaning service, and HOA dues. When Eric needed tax documents, I organized them. When his mother, Carol, needed an orthopedic specialist, I found one. When his sister Nicole called crying because her oldest son needed money for summer camp, and she was between paychecks, I paid the deposit. Eric made good money as a regional manager for a real estate development company. He just never seemed to have money for anything that happened inside our actual life. It's tied up. That was his favorite phrase. His money was tied up in investments, tied up in business opportunities, tied up in a partnership, tied up in something that would supposedly benefit us later. My money, apparently, had the useful quality of never being tied up at all. Still, I told myself marriages weren't accounting ledgers. Then I came home that Sunday afternoon and saw Nicole's SUV in the driveway with 3 suitcases strapped to the roof. I stopped halfway up the front walk. A plastic storage bin sat beside the garage. Then another. Through the open door, I heard one of Nicole's children shouting, "Mom, where do I put my Xbox?" My hand tightened around my work bag. I stepped inside. Nicole was standing near the staircase directing her husband, Jason, who was carrying a cardboard box marked kitchen. Her 8-year-old son was dragging a backpack across my hardwood floor. Her 5-year-old daughter was sitting on one of our suitcases. My suitcase, the navy one I used for conferences. Carol sat on the couch with a cup of coffee as if she were supervising a moving company. She looked up and smiled. "Oh, good. You're home." I stared at her. "What's happening?" Nicole froze. Jason lowered the box slightly. Carol was the only person who didn't look uncomfortable. She placed her mug on the coffee table and folded her hands. "Nicole and Jason are going through a difficult period." I looked at Nicole. She gave me a tight smile. Jason's investment situation got worse. "I'm sorry," I said automatically. That was my first mistake. Sympathy was an opening Carol never wasted. "Exactly," she said. "They need family right now." I looked at the luggage again. "How long are they staying?" Carol glanced toward Eric. That was when I noticed my husband standing near the dining room. He had his phone in one hand. He wouldn't meet my eyes. My stomach tightened. "Eric," he sighed. "Can we not do this the second you walk in?" "Do what?" "Turn it into a whole thing." I looked around at the boxes. There are 6 suitcases in my living room. Nicole's mouth tightened. "They're not all mine." I ignored her. "How long?" "Eric?" "A few months." Carol answered for him. I turned toward her. She smiled in that patient way she used whenever she wanted to make me feel unreasonable before I had actually objected. "Just until Nicole and Jason get back on their feet." "And they're living here?" "Of course." I waited. Nobody said anything else. Then Carol added, almost casually, "You have those employee apartments through the university, don't you?" I thought I had misheard her. "What?" "The faculty and staff housing. They're apartments for visiting faculty and temporary employees." Carol waved one hand. "But you qualify." My eyes moved slowly from Carol to Eric. He still wouldn't look directly at me. I laughed once, because the alternative was asking whether all three adults in front of me had temporarily lost their minds. You want me to move into university housing? Temporarily, Carol said. So Nicole and Jason can stay here? The kids need stability. I stared at her. And I don't. Carol's expression hardened. Oh, Rachel, please don't make this about you. That sentence did something to me. Not because it was cruel, because it was familiar. 8 years of marriage could have been summarized by those 7 words. Please don't make this about you. When Carol needed help after knee surgery, I rearranged my work schedule. When Nicole needed money, I didn't make it about me. When Eric missed our anniversary dinner because a developer from Charlotte was in town, I didn't make it about me. When I came home sick with the flu and still had to order groceries because nobody else had noticed we were out of food, I didn't make it about me. Now people were moving into my bedroom. And apparently even that wasn't supposed to be about me. I looked at Eric. Tell me this is a misunderstanding. He rubbed his jaw. It's not a big deal. My chest went cold. You knew. Rachel, you knew they were moving in. Yes. How long? He finally looked at me. What difference does that make? A lot. Nicole stepped forward. Rachel, I know this is awkward. I turned toward her. Awkward? Her face flushed. I mean, obviously we wouldn't be doing this if we had another choice. There are rental houses. We can't afford one right now. There are extended stay hotels. With 2 kids? Jason finally spoke. We're not asking you to support us. I looked at the box in his hands. You're standing in my kitchen with your belongings. His face darkened. Eric stepped between us. Enough. I looked at him. His expression was irritated. Not embarrassed. Not apologetic. Irritated. As if I were the person creating the problem. Nicole is my sister, he said. Her family needs a place to stay. You work 10 minutes from campus. You can stay there for a while. You're asking your wife to leave her home. I'm asking you to be flexible. Why don't you stay in university housing? His eyebrows shot up. Because I don't work at the university. Then why don't Carol and Nicole figure out somewhere else to stay? Carol stood. I knew this would happen. I looked at her. Knew what would happen? You always make family help sound like some kind of transaction. My mouth actually fell open. Carol, I scheduled your surgery. That has nothing to do with this. I paid Nicole's summer camp deposit last year. Nicole looked embarrassed. Why are you bringing that up? Because apparently I'm the one who doesn't help family. Eric's mouth flattened. No one said that. Your mother just did. Carol shook her head. You're twisting my words. Then she gave a small sigh and looked toward Eric. She's upset because she likes controlling the house. That almost made me laugh. Eric didn't. He nodded. Just slightly. I saw it. And suddenly the argument wasn't about Nicole anymore. It was about the version of me they had apparently been discussing when I wasn't there. Too controlling. Too particular. Too career-focused. Too independent. The woman who paid every bill had somehow become the woman obsessed with control. I looked at Eric. What exactly have you already arranged? His expression changed. Only for a second. But I saw it. Nothing. Eric. He exhaled sharply. I looked into the staff housing process. The room went completely still for me. Not because he had looked. Because of the way he said it. Past tense. I looked into it. Already done. I put my work bag down. When? He frowned. What? When did you look into it? I don't know. Recently. How recently? Carol jumped in. Why does that matter? I kept my eyes on Eric. When did you start researching where I could live after you removed me from my house? His face tightened. Stop saying removed. What word would you prefer? You're being dramatic. You're asking me to pack a suitcase so your sister can have my bedroom. Nicole folded her arms. We don't need the master bedroom. I looked toward the stairs. Her daughter was standing at the top wearing one of my bathrobes. Nicole followed my eyes and called up sharply. Ava, take that off. The absurdity of it almost broke something inside me. I turned back to Eric. You planned this. We discussed options. With everyone except me. Because we knew you'd react like this. There it was. Not an apology. A justification. They had excluded me because they had already decided my objection would be unreasonable. I stood there for several seconds. Then something strange happened. I stopped wanting to win the argument. For years, I had explained myself to Eric. I explained why bills needed to be paid on time, why his mother couldn't be added as an authorized user to every account, why lending Nicole money every few months wasn't sustainable, why canceling plans without telling me was disrespectful, why marriage required 2 adults, not 1 adult and 1 highly compensated teenager. I suddenly felt exhausted by the idea of explaining one more obvious thing. So I smiled. Not because I was happy, because I had finally stopped negotiating. Okay. Eric blinked. What? I said okay. Carol stared at me suspiciously. You'll stay at the university? Yes. Nicole's shoulders visibly relaxed. Jason looked relieved. Eric didn't. He knew me well enough to understand that my calm was more dangerous than my anger. For how long? I asked. He hesitated. We'll figure it out. Fine. I picked up my work bag. Eric followed me upstairs. What are you doing? Packing. Right now? I looked over my shoulder. You seem to need the room. His jaw tightened. You don't have to act like a martyr. I laughed. That's interesting. What? I was going to say the same thing to Nicole. His face hardened. Don't. I went into our bedroom, or what had been our bedroom that morning. 2 of Nicole's bags were already beside my dresser. I opened the closet. Eric stood behind me, arms crossed. You know this isn't permanent. Then why did you research housing before Nicole's situation supposedly became an emergency? His arms dropped. I already answered that. No, you didn't. He looked away. That tiny movement bothered me more than everything Carol had said downstairs. I pulled out clothes, work pants, sweaters, 2 dresses, running shoes, my laptop bag. Then I walked to the small safe inside the closet and removed my passport, birth certificate, grandmother's jewelry, and several property documents. Eric watched me. Why are you taking all that? I closed the folder. Because it's mine. You think Nicole's going to steal your passport? I think people who move into someone's house without asking have unusual ideas about boundaries. His expression changed. Rachel. I turned. What? This attitude is exactly why everyone thinks you're difficult. I stared at him. It hurt. More than I expected. Not because Carol thought I was difficult. Because he had said everyone. Which meant there had been conversations. I swallowed. Does everyone also know who paid your mother's medical deductible last year? He rolled his eyes. Not everything is about money. Convenient. You make more than enough. So do you. That's different. I almost asked how. Instead I zipped my suitcase. Eric looked at it. Then at me. You're seriously leaving tonight. You asked me to. I asked you to help my family. No. You asked me to disappear so your family could be comfortable. He rubbed both hands over his face. For God's sake. Rachel. What? You always do this. You make everything sound cruel. I picked up my suitcase. Maybe stop doing cruel things. I walked past him. Carol was waiting downstairs. You don't have to be angry. I'm not. She frowned. You clearly are. I looked at her. Carol, you wanted me to leave. She opened her mouth. You got what you wanted. For once. She had no answer. Nicole stepped toward me. Rachel, I really am sorry. I studied her face. She looked uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable enough to refuse the master bedroom. Then don't throw away my things. Her eyebrows rose. I wouldn't. Don't move anything from my office. We need somewhere for the kids to play. No. Her mouth tightened. It's just a room. So is the guest room. Carol sighed dramatically. See? This is exactly the problem. I ignored her and looked at Eric. Anything else? His expression softened slightly. For one stupid second. I thought he might stop me. Instead he said, text me when you get there. I almost smiled. 8 years of marriage. That was all he had. Text me when you get there. So I left. The university apartment was small, furnished, and painfully quiet. I sat on the edge of the bed with my phone in my hand. I expected Eric to call. He didn't. At 9:14, Nicole texted, do you know where the extra sheets are? At 9:37, Carol texted, your attitude tonight was unnecessary. At 10:02, Eric finally sent something. Hope you cool down. We'll talk tomorrow. I read it twice. Then I opened my banking app. For the first time in years, I looked at my household expenses as if they belonged to someone else. Electricity, water, internet, cleaning, landscaping, pest control, home maintenance plan, streaming accounts, family cell plan, the credit card with Eric, Carol, and Nicole as authorized users. My name, my account, my payments. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I remembered Eric saying, "You can stay there for a while." You, not we. I logged into the internet provider. Cancel service. The website asked why. Moving. I selected it. Electricity came next. End service at current residence. Water. Same. I removed automatic payments from accounts I no longer intended to manage. I canceled the cleaning service. Paused the landscaper. Removed the authorized users from my personal credit card. I didn't destroy anything. I didn't shut off utilities that belonged to Eric. I simply closed services that belonged to me. If he wanted electricity, he could open an account. If Nicole wanted Wi-Fi, she could buy Wi-Fi. If Carol wanted groceries, her son could give her a credit card. It took less than 40 minutes to stop doing what I had been doing for 8 years. When I finished, I felt guilty. That shocked me. I had been ordered out of my own home, and somehow I still felt guilty for not paying everyone's bills. I almost reversed the cancellations. Then I pictured Eric's face when he said everyone thinks you're difficult. I closed the laptop. 3 days later, at 1:07 in the morning, my phone rang. Eric. I answered on the 5th ring. Hello. What the hell did you do? I sat up. His voice was loud enough that I had to pull the phone away. What are you talking about? The power is out. I glanced at the clock. Then call the electric company. I did. They said the account was closed. Okay. He sounded stunned by the word. Rachel, the electricity is off. The refrigerator is dead. The kids are crying. My mother nearly fell walking downstairs. I said nothing. And the water company says that account was terminated too. Nicole says the Wi-Fi stopped yesterday. What did you do? I closed my accounts. Your accounts? Yes. You can't just shut off the house. I didn't. Rachel, I ended services in my name after I moved. There was silence. Then his voice dropped. You did this on purpose. I leaned back against the headboard. No. Eric, what do you call this? You told me to move out. He breathed heavily into the phone. So, I finally smiled. I assumed that included my money. Silence. Absolute silence. For the first time in 8 years, Eric had nothing to say. Then I heard Carol in the background. What did she say? Nicole shouted something about the freezer. A child started crying. Eric covered the phone, but I could still hear him snap. Just give me a second. He came back. You need to fix this. No. Another silence. What? You heard me. Rachel, this is our home. I closed my eyes. 3 days earlier, that sentence might have broken me. Now it almost made me laugh. Our home? Yes. Interesting. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Not yet. He exhaled sharply. Call them in the morning and reopen everything. I won't. You're my wife. And you asked your wife to live somewhere else. This is childish. No. Childish is expecting another adult to pay your bills because you don't know how. His voice hardened. You're going to regret making this ugly. Something about the sentence made me sit very still. Not angry. Alert. Because suddenly I remembered the employee housing forms on the dining room table. Already printed. Already researched. Before anyone had supposedly made a final decision. Before Nicole had arrived with the suitcases. Maybe even before her financial emergency. I looked at the dark window across the room. How long ago did you start looking into university housing? Eric. He didn't answer. Eric, this isn't the time. When? I have a house full of people without electricity. So open an account. Rachel, good night. I hung up. My hands were shaking. But not because I had shut off the power. Because for the first time, I was beginning to wonder whether they had wanted me out of that house for reasons that had nothing to do with Nicole. And if I was right, the electricity going out was going to be the smallest problem Eric Mercer had. At 7:18 the next morning, Carol called to tell me I had endangered her life. Not inconvenienced her. Not annoyed her. Endangered her life. You know I have a bad knee. She snapped the moment I answered. I could have fallen down those stairs in the dark. I set my coffee on the desk. Then Eric should keep flashlights in the house. You think this is funny? No. You shut off the electricity. I closed an account in my name. That is the same thing. No, Carol, it really isn't. She sucked in a breath. You knew we were here. Yes. You knew there were children here. Yes. And you still did it? I leaned back in my chair. You have 3 working adults in that house. What does that have to do with anything? Any one of you can open an electric account. Silence. Then she said, Eric shouldn't have to waste his time on things you've always handled. There it was. So clear that for a second I almost thanked her. Not because she was right, because she had finally said the quiet part out loud. I had always handled it. Therefore I should continue handling it. Even after being told to leave. I rubbed my forehead. Carol, I'm at work. Oh, now work is more important than family. You asked me to move out. That was temporary. So are utility outages. She made an angry sound and hung up. 20 minutes later, Nicole texted, Do you remember the Wi-Fi password? I stared at the message. Then another came through. Never mind. Eric says the whole account is canceled. A third. The kids need internet for homework. I typed. Then one of their parents should set up internet. The typing bubble appeared immediately. Seriously? I put my phone face down. That should have been the end of it. Instead, my family spent the next 48 hours discovering that houses did not, in fact, maintain themselves. The first call was about the refrigerator. Nicole left a voicemail. Rachel, the ice maker is leaking again. Who did you use last time? I didn't respond. An hour later, Eric called. Who repairs the refrigerator? I don't know who you use now. He paused. What does that mean? It means I'm not managing repairs. You know the company. I probably do. Then give me the number. No. He actually laughed. Not because anything was funny, because he thought I couldn't possibly be serious. Rachel. What? It's a phone number. Then Google one. His voice flattened. You're really going to behave like this? You mean stop working for a household I was removed from? No one removed you. I looked around my university office. I'm currently sleeping in an apartment because your sister is sleeping in my bedroom. That was your choice. I went still. My choice. You didn't have to make such a production out of leaving. I almost admired the logic. They told me to move out. I moved out. Now that was apparently my fault too. Good luck with the refrigerator. I said. I hung up. That afternoon, I received an email from our HOA. Courtesy notice. Lawn maintenance required. I stared at it for 10 seconds before laughing. Our landscaper had serviced the property every Wednesday for 6 years. Eric had once complained that paying someone to mow the lawn was wasteful. I had suggested he mow it himself. He never mentioned it again. Now, apparently, the grass had grown just enough for the neighborhood association to notice. I forwarded the email to Eric. No comment. He called 3 minutes later. Why did the lawn service stop? I canceled it. You canceled that too? Yes. Why? Because I don't live there. It's still your house. The words slipped out before he could catch them. I smiled. Interesting. When he wanted me to pay, it was my house. When his family wanted my bedroom, it was apparently his decision. I'm glad you remembered. I said. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. He was quiet. Then, more carefully, he said. Can you at least send me the landscaper's contact information? I gave it to him, not because I felt responsible, because I wanted him to understand exactly what things cost. Later that evening, he texted, $340 a month? Seriously? I didn't answer. The next morning, Nicole's card was declined at a grocery store. She called me from the checkout line. Rachel, did you cancel the Visa? My Visa? The family card. It's my personal credit card. Eric said we could use it. Eric can give you one of his. She lowered her voice. I have $200 of groceries here. Then use your debit card. A pause. We're trying to save money. I closed my eyes. Nicole, so am I. You have a 6-figure salary. So does your brother. That's not the point. No, it actually is. Her voice sharpened. You know, Mom was right. You keep score on everything. I sat up straighter. Do you know how much I paid for Mason's summer camp last year? She went silent. How much did I cover when your car needed a transmission? Why are you doing this? Because apparently remembering what I've paid for is called keeping score, while spending it is called family. That's unfair. No, What was unfair was deciding I should leave my home, and then assuming my wallet would stay behind. She hung up. I expected to feel triumphant. Instead, I felt tired. That was the part nobody tells you about finally setting boundaries. Sometimes relief comes mixed with grief, because every boundary forces you to admit how many times you should have drawn it earlier. That afternoon, my friend Dana Collins came to campus. Dana and I had met freshman year. She was now a family law attorney in Raleigh and possessed the unnerving ability to hear a 10-minute story and identify the one detail everyone else had ignored. She listened to me over lunch without interrupting. When I finished describing the boxes, Carol's announcement, Eric's reaction, and the utility calls, Dana didn't laugh. She didn't even comment on the absurdity of being told to leave my own house. Instead, she asked, "When did Eric print the employee housing information?" I frowned. "That's your question?" "Yes." "I don't know. Before I got home." "No." "When did he research it?" I asked him that. And he said recently. Dana set down her fork. "When did Nicole's husband's investment collapse?" "About 2 weeks ago." "And Eric already knew which housing program you qualified for?" I stared at her. "He works in real estate. Looking up housing isn't exactly hard." "That wasn't my question." I didn't answer. Dana leaned forward. "Rachel, did he have the application?" "A printed page. With eligibility information?" "Yes." "Did he know whether there were units available?" I thought back. Eric had said, "You can stay there for a while." Not "you can check." Not "maybe the university has something." He had known. "I think so." Dana's expression changed. Not dramatically, just enough to make my stomach tighten. "Check when the PDF was downloaded." "What? If it came from your home computer, check the download history." I gave a nervous laugh. "You think they planned this for weeks?" "I think you should stop guessing." She took a sip of water. "Documents don't get defensive." That evening, I logged into the shared desktop remotely. The download folder still had the file. Employee Transitional Housing Eligibility and Application. Downloaded 31 days earlier. I read the date 3 times. 31 days. Nicole's so-called emergency had happened 13 days ago. I immediately called Dana. She answered on the second ring. "You checked?" "Yes." "How early?" "More than 2 weeks before Jason's investment problem." Dana was quiet. "Okay." The calmness in her voice scared me more than surprise would have. "What does that mean?" "It means you stop treating this like a family argument." My throat tightened. "What do I treat it like?" "A paper trail." The next day, I started with our joint checking account. Nothing looked shocking at first. Mortgage. None. The house had been paid off years ago. Utilities. Groceries. Insurance. My payroll deposits. Some of Eric's. Then I noticed a transfer for $8,500. Recipient. C. Mercer. Carol. Memo. Loan repayment. I frowned. I scrolled. 3 months earlier. $6,000. 5 months earlier. $11,250. 9 months earlier. $7,500. All to Carol. All labeled loan repayment. I called Eric before I could stop myself. He sounded distracted. "I'm in the car." "What loan are you repaying your mother?" Silence. Then, "What?" "The transfers." His tone changed instantly. "Why are you going through my transactions?" "They're in our joint account." "They're not your transactions." I almost laughed. "They came out of an account with my name on it." "I owed Mom money." "For what?" "That's between me and her." "No, Eric. Not when you're using marital funds." He exhaled. "You really called me at work to interrogate me over money I owed before we got married?" I sat very still. "You owed her more than $30,000 before we got married?" "I didn't say that. You just said the debt was from before our marriage." His voice hardened. "Rachel, I am not doing this with you. Do you have a loan agreement?" "Oh my God. Do you?" "She's my mother." "That wasn't my question." He snapped. "This is exactly why living apart for a while might actually be good for us." I felt something cold move through me. Not hurt. Recognition. Living apart. He didn't say until Nicole moves out. He didn't say while things settle down. He said living apart. As though he had already gotten comfortable with the phrase. I lowered my voice. "How long have you wanted us to live apart?" He didn't answer. Then he said, "I have a meeting." The call ended. I downloaded every bank statement from the previous 2 years. Dana had told me not to confront him again. I had already broken that rule. I wouldn't do it twice. The numbers got worse the longer I looked. There were transfers I recognized. Others I didn't. A brokerage account showed withdrawals that Eric had never mentioned. One joint savings account had dropped nearly 20% over the previous year. I remembered him telling me the market was volatile. Money didn't disappear because of volatility when it was being transferred out in neat, round amounts. I sent everything to Dana. She called me the next morning. Do you have access to your credit report? Yes. Pull it. Why? Just do it. I did. There were no surprise credit cards. No hidden personal loans in my name. Then Dana asked, any recent mortgage inquiries? I scanned the report. My chest tightened. There had been a hard inquiry from a regional lender 4 months earlier. Residential equity financing. I frowned. That can't be right. Why? Because there's no mortgage. That doesn't mean someone didn't apply for financing. I stared at the screen. Eric couldn't take out a home equity loan. Dana was silent. He doesn't own the house. Another pause. Then she said very carefully, Rachel, does Eric know that? Of course. Does his mother? I laughed once. No. His sister? No. His friends? I thought of barbecue dinners, Christmas parties. Carol saying, Eric bought Rachel such a beautiful place. Eric smiling, never correcting her. My stomach turned. Everyone thinks it's his. Dana's voice became almost gentle. Then don't correct anyone. I stood up from my desk. What? Not yet. Why? Because right now, the most useful thing you have is that they're making decisions based on a lie they created themselves. I looked at the credit inquiry again. Dana, what exactly do you think he's doing? I don't know yet. That should have comforted me. It didn't. Before we hung up, she said, one more thing. What? Do not move anything else out of that house without documenting it. And if Eric texts you about expenses, maintenance, or you leaving voluntarily, save everything. My hand tightened around the phone. Why? Because if someone is trying to create a story about who left, who paid, and who maintained the property, I want the original version. I stared at the blank wall in front of me. For the first time, the utility fight felt almost childish. The power had come back on. The internet had been restored. Eric had hired another lawn service. Life in the house was continuing. But now I knew something I hadn't known when I packed my suitcase. Eric had researched where to send me before Nicole needed somewhere to live. He had been moving money to his mother for months. And 4 months earlier, someone had tried to borrow against a house Eric had never owned. That night, just before 11, my phone lit up with a message from him. You moved out. I'm handling the property now. We need to start documenting who is actually paying for what. I read it once, then again, and for the first time since I left, I didn't feel confused. I felt afraid, because Eric wasn't just trying to live without me. He was starting to build a record of what happened after I was gone. The message from Eric stayed on my screen all night. You moved out. I'm handling the property now. We need to start documenting who is actually paying for what. Documenting. That word bothered me more than everything else. Eric hated paperwork. For 8 years, I had organized his receipts, saved tax records, renewed insurance policies, and reminded him where important documents were stored. Now, suddenly, he wanted a record. By 7 the next morning, I had forwarded the message to Dana. She called immediately. Don't respond. I already drafted one. Delete it. I looked at the screen. I was going to tell him I didn't voluntarily abandon anything. Rachel, her voice was firm. Do not educate the person who may be building a case against you. I stopped. Dana continued. If Eric wants to write down that you moved out, let him write it down. We'll preserve the messages showing who told you to leave. But what is he trying to prove? I don't know yet. That answer is getting less comforting every time you say it. I know. She paused. Do you still have personal property in the house? Most of it. Important records? Some. Go get what you need. Take photos before you move anything. And if anyone starts an argument, leave. I almost laughed. You make it sound like I'm entering enemy territory. Dana didn't laugh with me. That's because I don't think you understand how quickly a marriage can become litigation. By Saturday morning, I understood. I texted Eric before going over. I'm picking up personal documents and work materials at 10. He replied almost immediately. I'll be out. Nicole is there. No objection. No questions. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. Nicole opened the door wearing one of my old university sweatshirts. She glanced down when she saw me looking at it. I found it in the laundry room. That's mine. I know. She pulled at the hem. I thought you didn't care about this stuff. I care when people wear it without asking. Her mouth tightened. Fine. I'll wash it. I stepped inside. The first thing I noticed was that my framed wedding photograph was gone from the entry table. In its place stood a picture of Nicole's family. I pointed. Where's my photo? She shrugged. Probably in a box. Which box? I don't know. Rachel. Her irritation came fast. We're trying to live here. We can't preserve the house exactly like a museum. I stared at her. You've been here less than 2 weeks. She folded her arms. And you haven't. There it was again. You left. As if repeating it enough times could rewrite how it happened. I walked upstairs. Nicole followed. You don't need to check every room. I stopped. Why not? Because our stuff is in them. I turned around. Your stuff is in my house. Her eyes narrowed. You keep saying that like you're trying to prove something. I almost smiled. I don't need to prove it. She looked confused. But I kept walking. The bedroom nearly stopped me. My nightstand had been moved. My clothes had been pushed to one side of the closet. Nicole's suitcases were open across the floor. Jason's shirts hung where Eric's used to be. I turned toward her. Where is Eric sleeping? The guest room. I stared. You and Jason took the primary bedroom? The kids wake up early. We need the bathroom. I laughed once. Nicole's cheeks reddened. What? Nothing. No, say it. You moved into my bedroom and somehow decided I was selfish for objecting. We're family. That sentence has cost me a lot of money. Her face hardened. There you go again. Yes. There I go again. Noticing reality. I picked up the folder I had come for. On the way to my office, I saw 3 cardboard boxes outside the door. One was labeled Rachel.books. I crouched and opened it. My books. My framed photographs. My grandmother's old brass desk clock. The pottery bowl I had bought on our honeymoon. I stood slowly. Who packed this? Nicole looked uncomfortable. We needed the office. For what? A playroom? No. She rolled her eyes. The kids need space. They have bedrooms. You're not even living here. Her voice echoed down the hallway. I stepped closer. That does not give you permission to dispose of my belongings. Nobody disposed of anything. You boxed them. Because you moved out. I was told to leave. She gave a short laugh. Nobody forced you. My stomach tightened. Did Eric tell you to say that? Her expression changed. Just slightly. What? You keep using the exact same words. You're paranoid. Maybe. I took out my phone and photographed the boxes. Nicole threw up her hands. Oh my God. Are you documenting us now? I looked at her. Apparently that's what everyone is doing. She went quiet. I took my folder and turned toward the stairs. Then I heard a notification chime. Not my phone. Another one. I stopped. The sound had come from my office. On the lower shelf beside the printer sat an old iPad Eric used to keep for travel. I hadn't seen it in months. The screen lit up. A message preview appeared. Carol, has she settled into the apartment? My heartbeat changed. Nicole was behind me. What are you doing? Nothing. I picked up the iPad. She frowned. That's Eric's. He left it in my office. The screen unlocked with the same 6-digit code Eric had used for years. I wish I could say I hesitated. I didn't. The Messages app was open. Carol's name sat at the top. I tapped it. The latest message was harmless enough. Has she settled into the apartment? The one before it was not. Carol, don't push her too hard right now. I scrolled. Nicole stepped closer. Rachel, you shouldn't be reading that. I looked at her. Why? Her face went pale. That was all the answer I needed. I scrolled farther. 3 weeks earlier. Carol, once Nicole moves in, Rachel will get angry. Let her. Eric had replied. She'll complain. But she'll go. She hates public drama. My fingers went cold. Carol, good. The important thing is that she leaves on her own. Eric, she won't think it's permanent. Carol, it doesn't need to be permanent yet. Just get her out first. Once she's living somewhere else, the rest is easier. I stopped breathing for a second. Nicole whispered, Rachel. I held up one hand. Don't. I kept scrolling. A month earlier, before Jason's investment collapse, before the suitcases, before anyone had supposedly needed my help. Eric. I checked her university housing. She qualifies. Carol. Perfect. Then she can't claim she had nowhere to go. My knees felt weak. I sat in my desk chair. Nicole stood beside the door, twisting her hands. You don't understand the context. I looked up slowly. Then explain it. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Explain it. She swallowed. Mom and Eric were worried about your marriage. My marriage. Eric said you two were having problems. So the solution was to secretly plan my relocation? Nicole looked toward the hall. I didn't know everything, but you knew I was leaving before I did. Her eyes dropped. That hurt more than I expected. How long? She said nothing. How long did you know? A couple of weeks. I laughed. It sounded ugly even to me. You brought suitcases into my house, knowing your brother had already arranged to move me out. We really did need somewhere to stay. That can be true and you can still be part of this. Her face crumpled with anger. What were we supposed to do? Live in a motel because you have to control everything? I stared at her. Then I looked down at the iPad again. More messages. Carol. Has she asked about the transfers? Eric. Not yet. My heart started pounding. I took pictures of the screen with my phone. Nicole stepped forward. You cannot take those. Move. That's private. Move. Nicole. She stared at me, then stepped aside. I photographed every relevant message. Then I found the sentence that ended my marriage. It was from Eric. Sent 6 weeks earlier. Once the assets are where they need to be, I'll officially file. Until then, I need her calm. Carol replied. Then keep acting normal. I didn't cry. Not there. Something inside me became too quiet for tears. 8 years. While I had been booking his mother's appointments and helping his sister, and paying bills and making dinner reservations, and asking whether we should take a weekend trip for our anniversary, my husband had been discussing when to file for divorce. And his mother had been advising him how to keep me cooperative until the money was where it needed to be. I sent every photograph to Dana. Then I called her. She answered and immediately said, What happened? I found the plan. What plan? The whole thing. My voice sounded strangely calm. They did want me out. Dana went silent. Tell me exactly what you found. I did. When I finished, she said, Leave the house. I'm not done. Yes, you are. I need more records. You need to preserve what you have and not create an argument they can use against you. I looked at Nicole. She was crying now. Not dramatically, just silent tears and an angry red face. I have to go. I told Dana. Rachel. What? Do not confront Eric. That evening, Eric called. I watched his name appear on my phone. I let it ring. Then a text came. Nicole says you were at the house. What did you take? Not. Are you okay? Not. We need to talk. What did you take? I saved the message. Then I sent it to Dana. I thought that was the worst thing I would learn that week. I was wrong. The next clue arrived Monday morning. I was reviewing old credit card statements when I found a charge from a boutique hotel in Charlotte. Eric had been there on a Thursday night 3 months earlier. He had told me he was attending a company dinner. I searched my calendar. He had come home Friday afternoon. The hotel charge included 2 breakfasts. I stared at it. Then I found another. Different hotel. Same pattern. A restaurant charge for 2. A valet receipt after midnight. I searched Eric's company website. The executive team page came up. Halfway down was a photograph I had seen before. Melissa Grant, Senior Vice President of Development. 41. Married. I remembered her. She had shaken my hand at a company holiday party the previous December. She had looked at Eric and smiled when she said, I've heard so much about you, Rachel. At the time, I had thought it was friendly. Now I opened Eric's old email archive. I searched Melissa. Hundreds of results. Most were business. Then I found one from a Sunday. No subject line. M. You really need to decide what you're doing at home. Eric. I told you. I'm working on it. M. And the house. Eric. Basically mine. Rachel just handles most of the paperwork. I stared at those words until they blurred. basically mine. There was another message. Melissa, if she leaves and you're the one maintaining the residence, that helps your position. Talk to counsel before you do anything stupid. Eric. Mom already has a way to get her out without making it look like I forced her. My hand started shaking. This was bigger than an affair. Melissa knew about the house. Or rather, she knew Eric's version of the house. And Eric had built that version carefully. Successful regional manager. Large suburban home. Investments. A wife who handled paperwork. He had let everyone believe I lived inside the life he provided. And now he was trying to turn that lie into leverage. Dana came to my office before lunch. I handed her printed copies of everything. She read silently. Her jaw tightened. Finally she looked at me. You were right about one thing. What? They think the house is his. I nodded. Melissa definitely does. Carol does. Yes. Nicole? Yes. Dana leaned back. And Eric has apparently forgotten that confidence is not the same thing as ownership. For the first time in days. I smiled. Eric hasn't forgotten. Dana raised an eyebrow. He knows exactly whose name is on the deed. Then why would he do this? Because for 8 years, I protected his pride. I told her about the first Christmas after we married. Carol had taken relatives through the house and proudly announced, Eric finally bought something worth keeping. I had opened my mouth to correct her. Later, Eric pulled me aside. Can you let it go? Why? Because my mother has spent my whole life comparing me to my father. I don't need everyone knowing I moved into my wife's inherited house. I had felt sorry for him. So I said nothing. One silence became another. Then another. Eventually the lie belonged to everybody. Dana stared at me for several seconds. Do not correct them now. I nodded. I know. No hints. No arguments. No sarcastic comments. That last one may be difficult. I'm serious. So am I. She pushed the papers into a neat stack. I want full financial disclosure. I want the transfers to Carol reviewed. I want the brokerage withdrawals traced. My pulse quickened. And if you're ready, we file. The word sat between us. File. Divorce. For 8 years. Every major decision in my marriage had been made after discussing what Eric wanted, what his family needed, and what would create the least conflict. This time there was no discussion. I picked up the pen. Dana watched me. You don't have to sign today. Yes, I do. Rachel, if I go home tonight and think about it, I'll start remembering good years. That's normal. I'll remember vacations, Christmas mornings, the night he sat with me after my grandmother died. My voice cracked for the first time. I'll start wondering whether 8 years deserves one more chance. Dana said nothing. I looked at the messages again. Once the assets are where they need to be, I'll officially file. I signed my name, Rachel Whitmore. Dana took the papers. I wiped my eyes and laughed softly. You know what's pathetic? What? I spent the last 2 weeks thinking I had walked away from my marriage. Dana shook her head. You didn't. No. I looked toward the window. They started leaving it months before I knew there was somewhere to go. 3 days later, Dana emailed me. Petition filed. Financial preservation request submitted. I read the words twice. Then my phone buzzed. Eric. For the first time since I left the house. I answered. His voice was almost pleasant. Hey. Hi. Can we talk this weekend? About what? Us. I closed my eyes. He still didn't know. The court papers had not reached him yet. Eric continued. I think we both got carried away. Nicole's situation has been stressful. Maybe you could come over Sunday. I looked at the filed petition on my laptop. What did you have in mind? Dinner. Just us. He sounded relieved by my calm. Maybe we can reset. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Because somewhere between his mother's messages, the missing money, and Melissa's emails, Eric had convinced himself that he was still controlling the timing. He wasn't. Sunday might be too late, I said. He laughed. What does that mean? You'll find out. I ended the call. The petition was already moving through the system. The financial disclosures were coming. And for the first time in our marriage, Eric was about to receive paperwork I had not prepared for him. Eric received the divorce papers at 2:46 on Friday afternoon. At 2:51, he called me. At 2:53, he called again. By 3:10, I had 11 missed calls. 4 text messages, and 1 voicemail that began with, "What the hell is wrong with you?" I was in a budget meeting when the first call came through. I turned my phone face down. My department chair, Dr. Reynolds, glanced at me. "Everything okay?" "Yes." For the first time in weeks. That answer felt almost true. At 3:22, my assistant stepped into the conference room. "Rachel?" Her face looked uncomfortable. "There's a man outside asking for you." I already knew. "Eric?" She nodded. "He says he's your husband." I closed my folder. Technically, yes. Eric was waiting outside my office. His tie was loose. His face was red. I had seen him angry many times during our marriage. This was different. Anger usually made Eric louder. Fear made him quiet. He followed me into my office and shut the door. "You filed for divorce." Not hello. Not why. Just accusation. "Yes." He stared at me. "You actually filed." "Yes." "Because my sister needed somewhere to stay?" I almost laughed. "You're still going with that?" His jaw tightened. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means this conversation is going to be very short if you keep pretending Nicole is the reason." He dropped the papers onto my desk. "You're asking for financial disclosure." "Yes." "You're trying to freeze accounts." "I'm asking the court to preserve marital assets until we know where the money went." His eyes narrowed. "There is no missing money." "Then disclosure should be easy. You had no right to do this without talking to me." I stared at him. "No right? We're married. You planned our divorce with your mother before telling me." His face changed. Just for a second. Then he recovered. "I don't know what you think you saw." I leaned back. "Don't." "Rachel." I read the messages. His mouth closed. I continued. "Get her out first. She thinks it's temporary. Once the assets are where they need to be, I'll file." Eric went pale. "How did you get those?" That question ended whatever tiny part of me still wanted him to surprise me. "Not. I can explain." "Not. I'm sorry. How did you get those?" I gave a short laugh. "That's your first question? You went through my private messages. You plotted my removal from my home. You're twisting things. And there it is." He dragged a hand through his hair. "My mother was worried about us. Your mother was helping you move money. That money has nothing to do with you. It came from a joint account. I owed her." "For what?" He looked away. I waited. He finally snapped. "Family stuff." $30,000 of family stuff? "Stop acting like you're my accountant." "No. Your accountant would probably ask for documents." He slammed his palm against my desk. I flinched. Eric saw it. For 1 second, shame crossed his face. Then he stepped back. "I'm sorry." I didn't answer. He lowered his voice. "Look, things got out of hand." "Things? Between us? You mean your affair?" His eyes snapped to mine. That one landed. He stared at me. I watched the color drain from his face. "Melissa?" I asked. Silence. Then he shook his head. "You're unbelievable." I almost admired him for managing to sound offended. "Am I wrong? She's a colleague. Do all your colleagues share hotel breakfasts with you?" He froze. "Or tell you to decide what you're doing at home, Rachel? Or discuss whether me leaving the house helps your position?" His shoulders dropped. For the first time, Eric looked less like a husband arguing with his wife, and more like a man watching the walls close in. "It wasn't what you think." "Then what was it?" He rubbed his forehead. "Melissa and I got close." I laughed softly. "That's a beautiful phrase. It wasn't planned. Neither was your divorce?" "That's different." "How?" "We were unhappy." I stared at him. "When were you going to tell me?" He didn't answer. "Before or after you finished moving the money?" "I wasn't stealing from you." "Good. Then the court will confirm that." His eyes hardened. "You're really going to drag this through court? You already turned our marriage into a strategy meeting." He leaned toward me. "You're going to destroy 8 years because I made some bad decisions?" "No." I kept my voice calm. "You did that." He looked at me for several seconds. Then his face softened. It was the expression he used when anger failed and charm became necessary. "Rachel." I hated that my heart still responded to my name in his voice. "Come home." I blinked. "What?" "Nicole can move into the guest room. We'll figure something else out." I almost felt sorry for him. "You think this is about my bedroom?" "I think we need time." "You had time. Then give me a chance." "For what?" "To fix this." I looked at him. "Do you want to fix the marriage?" Or do you want me to stop the financial review? His eyes shifted. That was enough. I stood. Leave. Rachel. Leave my office. He stared at me as though he had never imagined I would be the one ending a conversation. Then he picked up the papers. At the door, he turned. You think you've won something? I shook my head. No. Then why do you look so calm? Because I finally know what game I'm playing. He left without answering. By Saturday, the house had started turning against him. Nicole called at 8 in the morning. I nearly ignored it. Then I answered. What? She sounded exhausted. Can you tell Eric the dishwasher is leaking? I stared at my coffee. No. Rachel, come on. Tell him yourself. He's blaming Jason. That sounds like an Eric problem. Nicole sighed. Everything is an Eric problem to you now. No. Everything used to be a Rachel problem. That's the difference. She went quiet. Then, unexpectedly, she said, he's losing it. I frowned. What do you mean? He and Mom had a huge fight last night. About what? Money. Of course. Nicole continued. Eric says groceries are costing too much. Mom said he's being cheap. Jason told him we're looking for a place. And Eric said we need to look faster. I leaned back. Sounds productive. That's not funny. No, it isn't. She lowered her voice. He said you froze money. I didn't freeze anything. Well, that's what Mom says. Your mother says a lot of things. Nicole sighed. Then she said the sentence that perfectly captured 8 years of my life. I just don't understand why everything is suddenly so hard. I almost answered immediately. Then I stopped. Nicole, what? Nothing is suddenly hard. Silence. These bills existed last month. She didn't speak. The repairs existed last year. The HOA existed. Groceries existed. Your mother's appointments existed. Your brother's taxes existed. My voice stayed calm. The only thing that changed is that I stopped making all of it invisible. Nicole hung up. Sunday afternoon. Carol called. I answered because I wanted to hear what version of reality she was using now. You need to stop punishing Eric. I'm not punishing him. You filed for divorce. He planned one first. Carol made an impatient sound. He was upset. For months? Men say things when they're frustrated. So do courts. She went silent. Then her voice sharpened. You think lawyers are going to make you happy? No. You think embarrassing your husband will give you your family back? I'm not trying to get this family back. That finally rattled her. What do you mean? I mean I'm done. You don't just walk away from marriage. I laughed. Carol, you literally planned how to get me to walk out of the house. That is not what happened. I read your messages. Silence. Then she said quietly, you had no business reading those. There it was again. The crime, apparently, was discovery, not betrayal. I ended the call. Monday morning, Dana sent me an update. Eric's attorney had responded to the preservation request. They were contesting portions of it. Expected. Then she added, his side is claiming he has been carrying substantial household expenses since you left. I smiled. Of course they are. Save every message where he complained about opening utilities. Already did. And Rachel? Yes. Don't underestimate how much confidence people get from telling the same lie for years. I knew exactly which lie she meant. The house. That afternoon, another piece of Eric's life started breaking. Melissa called me. I almost didn't answer because I didn't recognize the number. Rachel Whitmore? Yes. This is Melissa Grant. My hand tightened around the phone. Her voice was controlled, professional, almost cold. I think we should speak. I didn't respond immediately. She continued. I understand you filed for divorce. That would be correct. Eric told me you're making allegations involving me. I'm not making allegations to you. A pause. Then she said, I want to be clear. I'm not interested in being dragged into a marital dispute. I nearly laughed. You discussed my house with my husband. Silence. You advised him about me leaving. That was a general conversation. At a hotel? Her breathing changed. Rachel. Yes. I was told your marriage had effectively ended. That's interesting. Nobody told me. She said nothing. I continued. What else did he tell you? This conversation was a mistake. Did he tell you he owned the house? She paused. Too long. Why? I smiled. There it was. I'm asking. He said it was the marital residence. That's not what I asked. Another silence. Then Melissa said, more carefully, Eric gave me the impression that it was primarily his asset. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Before I could answer, she added, I need to go. Melissa. She stopped. Whatever Eric promised you, you should verify it. Her voice cooled instantly. I don't need advice from you. No. I looked at the financial records on my desk, but apparently both of us did. She hung up. 3 days later, Eric's company announced an internal review involving expense reporting and possible conflicts of interest. Dana told me not to assume it was connected, so I didn't. But Eric called that night anyway. Did you contact my company? No. Melissa says you threatened her. I told her to verify what you told her. What did you tell her about the house? I smiled. Finally, there it was. Not the affair. Not our marriage. The house. What are you afraid I told her? He swore under his breath. Rachel, you are trying to ruin my career. You're doing a remarkable job without my help. He hung up. For the next 2 weeks, the pressure shifted. Eric stopped asking me to come home. Instead, he wanted negotiation. He suggested mediation. He suggested privately reversing some transfers. He suggested that we keep lawyers from making everything expensive. Each offer came with one condition: slow down the financial discovery. I refused. Then Carol changed tactics. She stopped calling me directly. Instead, she called everyone else. My Aunt Susan, 2 cousins, mutual friends, people from Eric's extended family I hadn't spoken to in months. The story spread quickly. Rachel abandoned Eric. Rachel shut off utilities while children were in the house. Rachel was trying to force Nicole's family onto the street. Rachel cared more about money than marriage. Then, one Tuesday evening, Aunt Susan called. I don't know what's true, she said carefully, but Carol is planning some kind of family dinner before Thanksgiving. I closed my eyes. Of course she is. She says everyone needs to sit down and stop this from becoming ugly. It's already ugly. She wants you there. I laughed. I'm sure she does. Susan hesitated. Are you going? I looked at the folder Dana had given me that afternoon. Inside was a certified copy of the deed. One name, me. Beside it were 8 years of tax payments, insurance statements, maintenance records, and the transfers Eric had made to Carol. I ran my fingers over the folder. Yes. Susan sounded surprised. You are? Yes. Why? Because Carol had spent 8 years telling everyone that her successful son had given me a beautiful home. Because Eric had spent 8 years smiling when she said it. Because they had tried to push me out of that home while preparing to argue that Eric had been the one maintaining it. And because sometimes the most effective way to end a lie wasn't to argue with it privately. It was to let everyone who believed it watch it collapse. I think it's time, I said. For what? I closed the folder. For Eric to finally tell his family whose house they're sitting in. The receiving account has your name on it. For 3 seconds, I forgot how to breathe. What do you mean? My name? Rachel's voice was tight. Kate Sullivan. That's impossible. That's what the transfer record says. I don't have an account with Daniel. I know. No. Rachel. I mean, I literally do not have that account. She went quiet. I stood up so fast my chair scraped the floor. How much did he move? Just under 200,000. My stomach dropped. And now it looks like I have it? On paper. Yes. I called Julia. She picked up immediately. What happened? I told her. There was a long pause. Then her voice became very calm. Do not call Daniel. I wasn't going to. Do not call the bank yourself either. Why? Because I want to know exactly what this account is before anybody alerts him. 20 minutes later, Rachel emailed every record she had. Julia called again. The account appears to have been opened recently. In my name? Using your name. That sounds like the same thing. It isn't. I pressed my fingers against my forehead. Julia, the account title references a trust using your name. I'm checking whether he used identifying information he already had access to. My skin went cold. Daniel knew my social security number. Of course he did. He had handled taxes, insurance forms, loan applications. For years, I had thought that was what husbands did. Now every document I had trusted him with felt like a weapon I had handed him myself. Why would he put his hidden money somewhere with my name on it? Rachel answered before Julia could. To blame you later. I went silent. Julia didn't disagree. If Rachel's attorneys begin tracing marital assets, she said, Daniel can claim he transferred funds to you. If you then accuse him of fraud, he can muddy the story. So he makes me look involved. Possibly. My hands started shaking. Cancel dinner. No. Julia's answer surprised me. What? Dinner stays. Why? Because right now he thinks he's ahead of you. Rachel let out a humorless laugh. And men like Daniel are most honest when they think they've already won. Friday night. Daniel came downstairs wearing the blue shirt I once told him made him look handsome. I almost admired the effort. He adjusted his cuff and smiled at me. You look nice. So do you. He glanced toward the dining room. Mom's bringing the trust paperwork from the advisor. Of course she is. What does that mean? Nothing. He studied me. For the past 2 days. He had been watching me constantly. Not lovingly. Calculating. I wondered whether he knew Rachel and I had spoken. I wondered whether the transfer had been panic or preparation. Then Linda arrived carrying a folder and 3 real estate brochures. She smiled brightly. I found another house. I looked at the brochures. Already? This one is perfect. She opened one on the table. First floor primary suite. Walk-in shower. And there's enough room for you and Daniel to have an office upstairs. My grandmother had been dead for less than 3 weeks. Linda had already designed her retirement around the money. Daniel gave her a look. Mom. Maybe not yet. What? We're family. I sat down. There was that word again. Family. Daniel placed the legal documents in front of me. Okay. He smiled. Let's keep this simple. I looked at the first page. Mercer Family Trust. My name appeared beneath Daniel's. Linda leaned forward eagerly. Once everything is together, you won't have to worry about managing all those separate accounts. I glanced at her. I don't mind separate accounts. Daniel's smile tightened. It's inefficient. For who? For us. I looked at him. What happens if I die? He blinked. What? If my grandmother's assets go into this trust and I die? What happens? Daniel looked at the document. Kate. That's morbid. I'm asking. He shifted in his chair. The trust continues according to its terms. And who controls it? We both would. Initially. His jaw tightened. Where is this coming from? I turned another page. Who's the successor trustee? Linda looked confused. Daniel stopped smiling. You said you were ready to discuss this. I am discussing it. Then stop treating me like I'm trying to rob you. I looked at him for a long moment. I didn't say that. His face changed. He realized the mistake. Linda quickly stepped in. Everyone is emotional. I almost laughed. Daniel placed a pen beside my hand. Read whatever you need to read. I picked up the pen. His eyes followed it. So did Linda's. Then I set it back down. I have one question. Daniel exhaled impatiently. What? You keep saying this is about protecting the family. Yes. Which family? Silence. Linda frowned. I don't understand. I looked at Daniel. He did. His face went pale. Kate. The doorbell rang. Nobody moved. I stood. Daniel grabbed my wrist. Who's coming? I looked down at his hand. Let go. His fingers released immediately. I opened the door. Julia walked in carrying a leather portfolio. Daniel's expression hardened. What is she doing here? Julia smiled politely. Good evening. Daniel. He looked at me. You invited a divorce attorney? I invited my attorney. Linda's eyes widened. Your attorney? Daniel stood. What the hell is going on? I returned to my chair. You wanted me to sign legal documents. It seemed smart to have a lawyer present. His face relaxed a fraction. He was trying to decide whether he could still control the room. Fine. He sat back down. Let her review it. Julia placed her portfolio on the table. I already have. Daniel looked at her sharply. Before he could speak, the doorbell rang again. This time Daniel didn't ask who it was. He just stared at me. I opened the door. Rachel walked in. Daniel's face emptied. Not anger. Not confusion. Nothing. For one glorious second, Daniel Mercer looked like a man whose brain had simply stopped working. Rachel took 2 steps into the room. Linda saw her. Her water glass slipped from her hand and hit the table. Rachel. Rachel smiled without warmth. Hi, Linda. Then she looked at Daniel. Hello, husband. Daniel shot to his feet. What are you doing here? Rachel raised an eyebrow. That's how you greet your wife? Get out. No. Rachel. No. Daniel turned toward me. Kate. Whatever she told you. I laughed. That stopped him. What? I looked at him. Which part are you about to explain? He stared at me. The wife. I pointed at Rachel. The fake wedding? I touched the ring on my finger. Or the $4 million? Linda covered her mouth. Daniel's face flushed. Kate, listen to me. I've been listening to you for 6 years. It's complicated. Rachel laughed. Oh, there it is. Daniel glared at her. Shut up. She folded her arms. You used that line on me for 4 years. He turned back to me. Rachel and I have been separated for years. Separated isn't divorced. We were done. Rachel nodded. Interesting. We filed a joint tax return last year. Daniel's face twitched. That was financial. Apparently everything with you is. Julia opened her portfolio. Daniel, I think it would be better if you stopped making spontaneous explanations. He looked at her. And who the hell are you to tell me what to do? Kate's counsel. For a divorce? Julia paused. No. That confused him. Then I saw it. The moment Daniel understood. His eyes moved to the fake marriage certificate lying beside Julia's hand. His mouth opened slightly. I stood. You know what's funny? Nobody answered. I went to Julia because I thought I needed to divorce you. Daniel said nothing. I was terrified you would try to claim part of my grandmother's estate. Kate. Then Julia checked our marriage record. Linda whispered. Oh, God. I turned toward her. That reaction told me everything all over again. Daniel looked at his mother. Mom. But it was too late. I picked up the certificate. No record. Daniel's jaw clenched. No valid license. I put it down in front of him. No legal marriage. His eyes hardened. That doesn't mean what you think it means. Julia answered. It means quite a lot. Daniel ignored her. We had a ceremony. Kate. Yes. We lived as husband and wife. You lied to me as husband and wife. You knew Rachel and I were separated. No. He froze. I stepped closer. You told me you had never been married. Linda began crying quietly. I looked at her. And you knew. She shook her head too quickly. Kate, please. Julia pulled out copies of the emails. Linda stopped. I placed one in front of her. I told him she trusts him. Her face collapsed. Another. Once he's legally free, they can fix the paperwork later. Linda pressed a hand to her chest. I can explain. I would love that. I thought Daniel was going to finalize everything. So you gave me a fake wedding? It wasn't fake. I laughed. Linda flinched. There were flowers. I said. So I guess that makes it real? Kate. I loved you. No. My voice surprised even me. It was completely calm. You loved what I did for you. She stared at me. I took you to doctors. Because you cared. I organized your insurance. You're good at those things. I gave up a promotion. Her face crumpled. You were family. I shook my head. No. Daniel needed somebody to take care of you. Linda started crying harder. That isn't fair. Fair? I pulled the ring off my finger. For 6 years, I had imagined taking it off would break me. Instead, I felt lighter. I placed it on top of the trust documents. Daniel stared at it. Then something in him snapped. You can't do this. I looked at him. Do what? Walk away with everything. Rachel laughed softly. Daniel pointed at me. That inheritance came into this household. My grandmother left it to me. We are married. I looked at Rachel, then back at him. No. I pointed toward her. She's your wife. Then I put my hand against my chest. And I'm the woman you defrauded for 6 years. Daniel slammed his palm against the table. Linda jumped. You think some paperwork changes 6 years? You seemed pretty interested in paperwork when you wanted me to sign a trust. His face reddened. That money belongs to our family. Which family? Daniel? He had no answer. Rachel placed her bank records beside his trust documents. While we're discussing family money, maybe you want to explain these. Daniel looked down. His expression changed instantly. You went through my accounts? Our marital accounts. You had no right. Rachel stared at him. I'm your wife. Remember? For the first time that night, I almost smiled. Julia added the records for the account carrying my name, and will also be addressing this. Daniel saw it. The anger disappeared. That frightened me. He went still. Too still. What is that? Julia watched him. You tell us. I've never seen it. Rachel laughed. That was fast. Daniel stood straighter. You're accusing me of financial fraud now? I haven't accused you of anything, Julia said. I'm documenting questions. Daniel turned to me. You really did this? I stared at him. I did what? Brought her here. Brought Rachel here. Dug through my finances. His voice rose. After everything I've done for you? I almost couldn't believe it. For me? Yes. What did you do for me, Daniel? He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Linda suddenly reached for my hand. I moved away. Kate, please. She was sobbing now. You don't have to punish all of us. I'm not punishing you. What am I supposed to do? I stared at her. She looked genuinely terrified. Not because her son might face legal consequences, because her life was about to become inconvenient. My endocrinologist appointment is Thursday, she said. You already know all my information. The room went silent. Even Rachel looked stunned. I laughed once. 6 years reduced to one question. Who would take Linda to the doctor? I picked up my purse. Call your son. Linda's mouth fell open. Daniel followed me toward the door. Kate. I kept walking. We can fix this. I stopped. Turned around. He looked desperate now. For the first time in years, Daniel wanted me to stay. And for the first time, I knew exactly why. You spent 6 years making sure there was nothing to fix. I opened the door. Then Daniel said something that stopped me. You think Rachel is your friend? Rachel stiffened behind me. I turned. Daniel was smiling now. Not warmly. It was the smile he used when he believed he knew something everyone else didn't. She didn't tell you everything. Rachel's face changed. Just slightly. But I saw it. I looked at her. What is he talking about? Nothing. Daniel laughed. Oh, come on. Rachel, shut up. His smile widened. I had never heard Rachel sound afraid before. Daniel looked directly at me. You two want to compare lies? Then he pointed at Rachel. Ask your new best friend where she was the week before your wedding. Rachel went completely still. And suddenly, for the first time since she walked through my door, I wasn't sure which one of them I should believe. The moment I mentioned account 4721, Eric stopped looking like a man who wanted his wife back. He looked like a man who had just realized his wife had found the last locked door. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he shoved his hands into his pockets. I don't know what you're talking about. I almost smiled. You answered too fast. Rachel, the account ending in 4721. I heard you. Then what is it? His jaw tightened. An investment account. Whose? Mine. Funny. You forgot to disclose it. I didn't forget anything. Then why did nearly $100,000 move into it 6 days before Nicole arrived? His expression hardened. I don't have to explain every business decision to you. I stared at him. You came here asking me to give you another chance. That has nothing to do with. It has everything to do with it. I stepped closer. 5 minutes ago. You said you wanted to fix our marriage. Now I ask about money you hid. And suddenly I'm not entitled to an explanation. He rubbed his forehead. I was protecting money I earned. From your wife. From what I knew was coming. I went still. There it was. Not an accident. Not confusion. Not his mother. Not Melissa. You knew the divorce was coming. I said. He looked away. Things were bad. No. You decided the divorce was coming. That's not the same thing. It is when only one spouse knows. He sighed. The account isn't illegal. I didn't say it was. You're acting like I stole something. I'm acting like a husband who hides marital funds before secretly arranging for his wife to leave the house probably shouldn't be trusted to define theft. His eyes flashed. I worked for that money. So did I. You have the house. The words came out before he could stop them. I stared at him. And suddenly the entire marriage made sense. Not the affair. Not Carol. Not Nicole. The resentment beneath all of it. You hated that house. I said quietly. What? You hated that it was mine. That's ridiculous. Is it? He looked away again. I continued. You loved showing it to clients. You loved hosting company dinners there. You loved your mother telling people you bought it. That has nothing to do with anything. But every time you looked at the deed, my name was there. Rachel. And yours wasn't. His face tightened. I almost felt sorry for him. For years, I had protected the exact insecurity. he was now using to justify betraying me. I had mistaken humiliation for vulnerability. I never made you feel small because the house was mine, I said. You didn't have to. That answer surprised me. He laughed bitterly. Everybody knew you were better with money, better with paperwork, better at handling everything. Then why didn't you handle more? His eyes snapped toward me. That's easy for you to say. No, Eric. It really is that easy. I shook my head. You were embarrassed that I was capable. So instead of becoming more capable yourself, you decided I was controlling. He said nothing. And instead of building something with me, you tried to protect yourself from me. His shoulders lowered. For the first time, he looked exhausted rather than angry. I don't know when everything got so messed up. I do. He looked at me. When you started treating my competence like something you deserved instead of something I was contributing. I stepped toward the apartment entrance. This conversation is over. Rachel. I stopped. He swallowed. What happens now? It was such a strange question. For 8 years, I had answered it. What happens with taxes? Rachel knows. What happens when mom needs surgery? Ask Rachel. What happens when Nicole needs money? Rachel will figure it out. What happens when the refrigerator dies? Call Rachel. He was still waiting for me to tell him what came next. I don't know what happens to you, I said. His face fell. But I finally know what happens to me. I went inside. The next morning, Dana called. The account ending in 4721 belonged to a small investment entity Eric had created with a business associate. The money wasn't gone. That was the good news. The bad news, for Eric, was that the timing was impossible to explain away. Dana sounded almost cheerful. He moved marital funds into an account he failed to disclose while discussing divorce with his mother. So his lawyer is about to have a very unpleasant morning. I laughed. What happens to the money? We asked the court to include it in the marital estate and account for the transfer during distribution. He'll say it was a business investment. He can say whatever he wants. She paused. We have bank records. Documents don't get defensive. Dana had told me that weeks earlier. Now I finally understood why she trusted them more than explanations. The divorce took months. Not because I changed my mind. I never did. Because ending a marriage was much slower than destroying one. There were disclosures, depositions, settlement proposals, arguments over transferred funds, arguments over investment accounts, arguments over furniture Eric had never cared about until someone assigned it a dollar value. Some of the money transferred to Carol was treated as part of the marital financial picture and adjusted during the settlement negotiations. The hidden investment funds were accounted for too. Eric did not leave with nothing. Neither did I. That mattered to me. I didn't want revenge disguised as justice. I wanted what was mine. Nothing more. And nothing less. Nicole and Jason moved out before Christmas. The day they left, Nicole called me. I gave the keys to Eric. Okay. There was a pause. Then she said, we found a townhouse. That's good. It's smaller. I almost smiled. I'm sure you'll survive. She didn't laugh. We had to make a budget. I waited. Apparently that sentence represented a major life event. Jason got a regular job again. That's probably a good idea. Another silence. Then she said, I've been thinking. That sounds dangerous. This time she did laugh. Weakly. Then her voice changed. I still think some of what happened got too ugly. I said nothing. But she hesitated. We treated your help like we had a right to it. I leaned against my desk. Nicole continued. I didn't realize how much you did. You didn't want to. That too. I appreciated the answer more than an elaborate apology. She sighed. I'm sorry. I closed my eyes. 8 years earlier, those words might have bought her everything again. Money, time, access, another chance. Now they were simply words I could accept without reopening the door. I hope things get better for the kids, I said. They will. Good. We hung up. Carol never apologized. That didn't surprise me. Instead, she blamed Eric. I heard about their fights from mutual relatives. You told me she wouldn't fight back. That was apparently something Carol shouted during one argument. Eric answered. She never did before. When Susan told me, I laughed for nearly a full minute. There it was. The fatal calculation. I had been patient, so they thought I was powerless. I had been generous, so they thought I was obligated. I had avoided conflict, so they assumed I feared it. They had mistaken every kindness for weakness, and then acted shocked when kindness ended. Melissa disappeared from Eric's personal life almost immediately. His company review did not destroy his career, but he was removed from several significant projects and reassigned away from responsibilities that required the same level of financial discretion. He blamed the divorce, then Melissa, then Carol. As far as I know, it took him a long time before he blamed himself. By spring, the divorce was final. Dana handed me the signed judgment and smiled. How do you feel? I looked at the document. Hungry. She burst out laughing. I'm serious. So am I. You just ended an 8-year marriage. I skipped lunch. She shook her head. What are you doing about the house? That question had followed me for months. Everyone assumed the answer was obvious. Move back. Reclaim it. Renovate the bedroom. Erase Nicole. Erase Eric. Turn the house into a monument to victory. Instead, I said, I'm selling it. Dana stopped smiling. What? I met with a realtor yesterday. Rachel. What? You fought so hard over that property. No. I shook my head. I fought so nobody could take it from me. That's different from wanting to live there. She studied my face. You're sure? I thought about my grandmother. For years, I had told myself keeping the house honored her. Then I remembered what she used to say whenever I refused to throw anything away. An inheritance should give you choices. Sweetheart. Not chores. I smiled. She didn't leave me a prison. 3 weeks later, I accepted an offer. Carol apparently heard and called me for the first time in months. You sold it. Hello to you too. How could you sell that house? I almost laughed. You mean my house? You know what I mean. No, I really don't. Her voice cracked. Eric lived there for 8 years. So did I. It was his home. Yes. I let the word sit. Home is not the same as ownership. She went silent. Then she said, You're doing this to hurt him. No. You know how much that place meant to him. That was the saddest part. She still didn't understand. It meant something to him because people thought it proved something. What does that mean? It means I'm done explaining your son to you. I ended the call. With part of the sale proceeds, I bought a smaller house closer to the North Carolina coast. 2 bedrooms. A manageable yard. No oversized dining room designed for family gatherings I didn't enjoy. No office that could be converted into a playroom without my permission. No history I had to walk around. The first night there, I ordered pizza and ate it on the floor because my dining table hadn't arrived. I looked around and realized something. Nothing in the house needed me. No broken appliance. No mother-in-law appointment. No sister-in-law emergency. No husband asking where his tax forms were. For a woman who had spent years being necessary, being unnecessary felt terrifying. Then it felt peaceful. Work changed too. Our dean called me into her office that summer. We're reorganizing the division. I immediately assumed she was giving me another project. Instead, she slid a folder across the desk. Department director. I stared at her. You're offering me the position? I'm asking whether you'll stop doing half the job unofficially and accept the title. I laughed. Apparently, my personal life wasn't the only place I had been performing unpaid labor. Yes. Her smile widened. Good. That was how Andrew Parker entered my life. Not dramatically. Not during the divorce. Not by rescuing me from anything. Andrew worked with the University Foundation as counsel and became part of a funding initiative my new department was managing. He was 38, annoyingly calm, and incapable of leaving a shared task sitting on someone else's desk just because they were more competent. The first time I noticed it, we were preparing for a donor meeting. I automatically started collecting everyone's notes. Andrew reached across the table. I'll do that. I have it. I know. I'm faster. I know that too. I frowned. Then why are you taking it? He smiled. Because I have hands. I laughed. A few months later, we were setting up another meeting when he carried 2 boxes into the conference room. I said, You could have asked facilities. He raised an eyebrow. So could you. I was going to do it myself. I know. He put the box down. You know other adults can do things too, right? I froze. Andrew noticed. His expression changed. Did I say something wrong? No. I smiled slowly. Actually, you said something extremely right. We became friends first, then coffee, then dinner. Slowly, painfully slowly. According to Dana, a year after I left Eric's house, I invited Andrew to mine. My house. Not a house inherited from someone I loved. Not a house occupied by a man who needed people to believe it belonged to him. Not a house maintained for an entire family who thought I should be grateful for the privilege. Mine because I chose it. I cooked dinner. Andrew brought wine. After we ate, I stood automatically and reached for his plate. He picked it up first. I've got it. You're a guest. You cooked. That's not how guests work. He picked up my plate too. Where's the dishwasher? I stared at him. He looked behind himself. What? For one ridiculous second, my eyes filled with tears. Andrew immediately put the plates down. Rachel? I laughed and wiped my cheek. No. Keep going. He looked concerned. Are you sure? Yes. I pointed. Kitchen. Left side of the sink. He picked the plates back up. Then he glanced over his shoulder. You cooked. I clean. Seems fair. Fair. Such a small word. For 8 years, I had confused love with endurance. I thought a good wife noticed everything before anyone else did. Paid what needed paying. Remembered what needed remembering. Fixed what needed fixing. Made herself useful enough that everyone would always need her. Then Eric told me to leave. So I did. I stopped paying his utilities. I stopped fixing his refrigerator. I stopped managing his mother. I stopped rescuing his sister. And eventually, I stopped trying to save a marriage my husband had already turned into an exit strategy. People thought the great revenge was discovering that the house belonged to me. It wasn't. The house was just paperwork. The real victory was realizing I didn't need to keep living in it simply because I had one. Andrew loaded the dishwasher, closed it, and leaned against the counter. What? I realized I was staring at him. Nothing. That usually means something. I smiled. I was just thinking. Dangerous. Very. He walked toward me. What about? I looked around the home I had chosen, then at the man who had never once asked me to make myself smaller, so he could feel bigger. And suddenly I remembered that first night in the university apartment. Eric screaming because the lights had gone out. Back then, I thought I had shut off the electricity. I hadn't. I had only stopped supplying power to people who believed it belonged to them. Andrew held out his hand. Walk. Now. Unless you have somewhere else to be. I took his hand. No. For the first time in a very long time. I didn't. We reached the front door when my phone buzzed on the counter behind us. I glanced back. A number I hadn't seen in months. Eric. One message. I finally understand what I lost. I looked at it for 2 seconds. Andrew didn't ask who it was. He simply waited. I turned the phone face down. Then I opened the door. Maybe Eric finally understood. Maybe he didn't. That was no longer my problem. For years, I believed home was something I had to maintain perfectly or risk losing. Now I knew better. A real home does not demand that one woman exhaust herself to earn her place inside it. And real love does not ask how much you are willing to sacrifice before deciding you deserve to stay. I stepped outside and locked the door behind me. This time, when I walked away from a house, nobody had ordered me to leave, and that made all the difference.